Umberto from UROCK and Radio Rock and Portugal News. We're here with the fantastic Ian Gillan, and we're gonna listen to the marvelous new album Splat. Let's listen to Ian. You told me this is one of the best albums, if not the best album, since the 70s. Why is that?
Okay, well, it's very difficult because really the important judgment on a record is from the observer or the listener. So objective views are much, much more important than subjective views. But my subjective view, purely from personal satisfaction, is that this is by far for me the best record we made since the 70s. And as that was a different age, it's hard to compare like apples and pears, but it has the same values. In terms of everything from the enthusiasm, the energy, the contribution of the individuals, all at a very high level. And it sounds like a band. I love it. My beloved Deep Purple. All right, well, hello everyone. Just a brief idea of some of the songs on Splat. Arrogant Boy, Billy, is an ordinary guy who sticks his head up above the parapet and says to the political elite, "Oi, do something, stop arguing, just get on with it, make life better for us." And they look down and go, "Who are you? Get back in your hole, you arrogant boy." So Billy's spoken up and he quite likes it. Next song is Diablo, which is a town in my mind which has where anything goes. I took my girlfriend there. It's the most dangerous place on earth. She likes to fight, bare knuckle. So she pickled her fists in brine to make them hard. She went into the fighting pit and she had 20 fights in 4 days. And on the 4th day, she reached the final and she was facing the ferocious Guts Mackenzie, who was the world champion, and she knocked him out in the 2nd round. So she got tipsy, she drank a bucket of wine and fell into the glitter pool. And then we went back home and she was a bit sore and with a couple of teeth missing, but very proud of her achievement. Hung a belt in the hardware store and then had a story to tell, which is the purpose of Diablo. Everyone goes there for 1 or 2 weeks in their life and they come home with a story to tell. It's a rite of passage. It's the only horse in town. I was in Toronto and every day, it was in the winter, we saw these vagrants and addicts on the street corner of Noble Street and amongst all the rubbish, just living in the dirt. And then it started to snow. There were 2 people living under a blue tarpaulin on the ground sleeping. And the snow built up. After 3 days, we drove past again and their heads came up. And we gave them some food, but they didn't want it. They just wanted money for crack. I imagine myself in the place of one of these guys who took his final hit and went into the spiritual world. And I was in his footsteps and I started walking, looking for sanctuary. And I walked across America, ended up on the high plains of New Mexico in an old empty town. It was a film set that had been deserted. And there was nothing there except for what the gypsies had left behind, which was a knock-kneed, clapped out, bony old horse. So just me and the horse in town, we'd both been abandoned and we found our sanctuary. And it's a story of that. It's called The Only Horse in Town. There's another one called The Lunatic. Well, there's 2 stories behind this. One is it's inspired by the plight of Winston Smith, who is the protagonist in the very prescient book, 1984, written by George Orwell, published in 1949. And the other thing is the NHS in England, the National Health Service, last year or early this year, proscribed the word lunatic. They said you can't use the word lunatic anymore. And I got very offended, very angry and very upset because nearly all of my friends are lunatics. And so we'd all been banned by the NHS.
We have one favor to ask you. Please subscribe to our YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook channels. It helps UROCK a lot. Thank you very much.
There's another song called Sacred Land, which is about two old Scottish Highland warriors, based on the story of the feud between the MacGregors and the McLarens, the famous Rob Roy McGregor and John McLaren, who was killed in the feud. And they came into the glen and they were tired and old, battle-scarred, weary. They put their swords down in a cross and they talked about the futility of war and the endless cycle of war and feuding. And they kind of made peace and they talked about the old days. And then they heard a disturbance. Intruders, marauders, other people coming, because they shared this stone, the holy, it's called Craig Turk. It's the Highland Gaelic expression for the goat, and it meant to represent a goat. And they were fighting over this rock for generations, which is so stupid, because it was just a spiritual home for both of them. But they wanted exclusive ownership, and that's just stupid. So these intruders and marauders suddenly appear, and now they're standing up. The old men slowly rise. They pick up their claymores, the swords, and they're going to fight again. But this time it's back to back to repel the intruders, which represents the endless futility of war. I think you just get it settled and someone else comes along. They want to fight you and take your land or take your spiritual home. Then there's guilt tripping, which is when I was 60, I swore I'd never scream again, but I couldn't help it. I just couldn't help it. This is a story of God and Darwin having a pint of beer in the pub together, talking about things, and God says to Darwin, "Charlie, we got to get the numbers right next time. It's overcrowded here." So and Charlie's going, dum, 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 because there's really no way out. And Charlie never intervened. Darwin was not about intervention. It was about observing and seeing how we evolved and mutated according to circumstances, which was brilliant and accurate. So that's God and Darwin, and it's called Guilt Tripping. Splat's the title track. That was the last song written. Roger Glover just said, "Why don't we do a bass and drums thing?" And he had this riff, and Pacey started playing. It's just the way the guys jam, you know. And so we had this jam, like Smoke on Water. It's just like a backing track. And so I had to write a song over it. And I thought, one night I lit the wrong end of my rocket. And in my imagination, the rocket went into reverse and blasted a hole through the center of the universe. And I was thinking about overpopulation and the possibility of Armageddon because we're so overpopulated. Then I thought of the butterflies and the way they'd mutated through their different formats from cocoons and caterpillars and such like. And then I thought of infinity and all the things I've been thinking about all my life, and how things didn't necessarily go on forever, but something had to happen, so they just changed. And my biggest worry about the book, that A Brief History of Time, was when the good professor said before the Big Bang there was nothing, and I would rather he'd said before the Big Bang there was something else, which to me makes more sense. So that's what this is about, and I look into the future as we splat against the screen, because there's that old joke about an insect hitting the screen, and what's the last thing that went through his mind? It was his ass, right? As he hit the screen. So in my mind, as I hit the windscreen, the first thing that goes through my front of my skull is King Arthur, followed by, I don't know, the Roman Empire, followed by the Aztecs and the whole of humanity. And we all go out into space as chess pieces, and then we pixelate into one energy force. So we're now metaphysical, not physical. So that's the future of the human race if we metamorphosize. And that's contained in the song. It's very hard to do such a big idea in so few words.
Sure.
But that's an interesting story. So that's Splat. This is a story behind Splat. This one is my favorite guitar solo in this one. It's so lyrical. The song is called Jessica's Bra, and it was called originally Jessica's Bar because I was looking for a 3-syllable female name to fit the line. So Jessica's Bra, but things being what they are, when I look back, I'd done a typo and I'd written BRA instead of BA. And I went, that's my first two lines. Welcome to the hallowed circles, inner circles of Jessica's Bra. And since you're asking, it's a typo and the sign above the bar. So it's all about a bawdy house. It's how things used to be in the pubs in England. All lots of fun. You get locked in, outrageous things would happen, but no one got hurt. And everyone would go home happy. And it was life as I knew it when I was a kid. And I could have written 20, 30 verses about this song because so many things, but I had to trim it down. And it's about being observed by a guy from the ministry who's sitting in the corner sipping water through a straw, and we don't really know what he's there for, but we find out. And but I mentioned just before the setup for the solo, we're checking the gravity and celebrating with buckets of tumbling ale. It's called a name I made up for some beer. Call it tumbling ale because people are tumbling and being. And when after tumbling ale, the solo comes in. Now this was written before. He didn't know what the song was about, but I had to write the line to set it up for his solo. That it's a drunk, and if you just close your eyes and imagine this guitar solo representing a drunk staggering around and then blah, 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 chatting and putting his arm around people, falling backwards and forwards. It's, for me...
So you got the feeling of what you were saying?
It's exactly. Well, I had to tailor it to set it up for the guitar solo. But
you got it. Do you think the life in the pubs changed?
Oh, God, yes. Oh, yeah. It doesn't exist anymore. It just doesn't.
Really?
No. Not like it used to. It used to be great. They banned everything, you know. No live music now.
Yeah.
Well, there is, but they have to pay so much for license fees and so few numbers because of the fire people, and it's horrible. It's really horrible. This is my new movie, and it's a story in another way of when I started my first band. I had dreams. I was walking home when I was 17. I had nothing except my dreams, and I thought I'll start a band. And the guy walking towards me, his name was Andy, and I stopped him. I said, do you live on the estate? Yeah. Do you know anyone who plays the guitar? Yep, this is 1962. Well, he said, I'm just starting. I said, okay, do you know anyone else? He said, yeah, I got a few friends. We're just starting to learn. I said, okay, rehearsals, my house, Saturday morning. And they all turned up, they're jumping on the furniture with their acoustic guitars, and not one of them had 6 strings on the guitar. I was playing drums with knitting needles and a biscuit tin. And needless to say, we got thrown out the house because we were wrecking the place. And so I thought of that moment of magic and dreams. We all dream about things, and to make it come true. So I thought, well, supposing I'm walking down the street and I want to make a movie, and I stop a guy and say, what are you doing Wednesday? If you've got nothing on, come round to my place. We'll start working on a plot and we'll make a movie. Dreams, right?
Dreams, as Ian said. And as a lifelong Deep Purple fan, it was a dream for me to listen to the new Deep Purple album, Splat, in the company of Ian Gillan, my hero. So I strongly suggest you to buy, download, listen to the new Deep Purple album, Splat. It's fantastic. I want to thank Ian Gillan, and I want to thank you guys that are always supporting with love our band UROCK. Ciao, love you.